Hi, I'm Ohms and welcome to OmzLaw. If you're new to this series, please make sure to check out the previous videos before watching this one, as this is a continuation to the concepts we've been talking about before. But basically, if you have your own layers and you're just trying to create a basic camera setup with some focus, this is what we're going to focus on today. We are going to discuss how to change focus while inside of After Effects using the Parallax tools we've been discussing before. Alright, so let's move into After Effects, whereby we have our layers here. We renamed all of our layers last time, but now we want to get rid of the camera. We want to take out anything we did last time. Also in terms of the positions, so you may reset your transform options and you can take out any keyframes by just selecting them and deleting them and making sure that you are at the start of the timeline. So we have a composition of 5 seconds long, and we want to start off by defining the distance of all of these layers. So we want to first put in our camera, and the reason why we want to do that now is because we are going to use a specific type of camera. So we're going to press on layer, new camera, and it's going to open up this window box here whereby we are going to change around with the preset. And since we are at the start of the composition, we haven't really done anything yet, we haven't animated yet. Whenever you change the preset of these lenses, it would change the way everything looks. So this is why I would start off by choosing the type of lens that I want. Obviously, the numbers that go higher mean that you will have more shallow depth of field, so basically more out of focus backgrounds or foregrounds, stuff that can be more out of focus. The lower numbers are for wide lenses, so if you want close-ups, go to the higher lenses. If you want wide shots, go to the lower lenses. And we're gonna choose 135mm for today. We are not going to change anything except enable the depth of field right here. And we're going to play around with these options once we are in the timeline. So we're going to press OK. And After Effects might warn us that our layers are not 3D. So we're going to have to turn our layers 3D. So we're going to press on OK. We're going to select all of our layers. So click on one, shift, click on the last one. And we are going to press on this cube icon here. So now our layers are in the 3D world that After Effects provides for us. So we want to set our distances like we did last time. So we're going to press P for position, and this is going to open up all of our layers right here. And we're going to put the sun as being 10,000 units away, the sky as being also something like 10,000 units away as well. So as we said before, we're going to have to decide on the scaling of these objects. I'm going to push the sun a bit further. I'm going to push it to 12,000, and then I'm going to scale it along with the sky. So I'm going to select them both. You can select them independently and scale them differently. I'm just going to do this really quickly so that we can jump into the camera setup. So we have this scaled back up. I'm going to scale the sun by itself, and that's about it. We're going to go up to the mountain, also push it back to 5,000, and then press S for scale and scale it back up. We're also going to change the position in the y-axis and bring it up just a bit. So now we have these elements all in the z-axis. The hills is at 0, which is the closest to the camera. So if we press on P for the camera, we can see that the camera is negative 72,000 points the other way. So if you change this, this will change the angle of viewing. This will change what we are seeing. But we're not going to play around with the position of the camera too much. What we're going to do is open up these features so that we could change around with the aperture and the other camera options. So I'm going to click on the camera options right here, and this is where mostly I'm going to spend some time today. So the depth of field is the amount of information that is in the image. Basically, if the image has a high depth of field, it means everything is in focus. If it has a shallow depth of field, it means that some elements are out of focus. And this relationship relies on the focus distance and the aperture. This is why you can't really choose the focus as being the exact unit that your layer is at. So for example, if the mountains is at 5,000 pixels and I come in here and I put the focal distance as 5,000 pixels, it does not mean it'll focus at that amount. And that's because of the aperture. Once you change the aperture, you will get a different result for the focus distance. So I'm going to increase the aperture to 300 pixels, which is usually the number I started at. And now we can see what is really happening. We can see that the hills are more in focus than the background. We can see that the background is out of focus. Again, this is a long lens, so this effect will exaggerate as you go up the numbers and will become less as you go down the numbers in terms of the lens choices. Alright, so I want to exaggerate this effect by changing the aperture just a bit. So I'm going to increase the aperture by taking these numbers up. I'm going to take it up to 500 pixels so that we can really see this. You can also change the iris shape, which will give you better results in the focus, but don't change this right now because it does slow everything down significantly. And I want to just focus on the mountain. I don't want to focus on the hill. So we're going to zoom in, and what I'm going to do is zoom in very closely to the mountain so I could guesstimate it. Again, you could do the math around this, but it'll just take too much time and you're better off guessing this. So by zooming in to the maximum capability that you can look at these pixels. So if you turn off the depth of field, you can see that the mountain suddenly becomes in focus. So what we want is we want to tell the focus distance to become this focused, but we want to determine what the focus distance is. So we're going to turn on the depth of field and we are going to play around with these numbers. So we're going to take this down. And we realize as we take this down, nothing really happens. It goes more out of focus. So it must be that we have to head in the other direction. So we're going to take it up. I'm holding shift as I move so that I could skip through the numbers very quickly. So after testing this out several times, so now I'm at 11,270 pixels and I'm moving it ever so slowly to the right side. So I'm increasing the numbers and I'm making sure that I'm in the right place by turning on and off the depth of field every once in a while and making sure that nothing has really changed. Alright, so after testing out, I'm almost at 12,000 pixels, so I'm going to leave it at that. So the focus distance is at 12,000 pixels. So let me go back and fit this in my composition. You can see that now the mountain is in focus, where else the tree and the hill are out of focus. One thing to point out here is that as you change around with these values, so if you change around with the zoom value, you can frame this up in a better way. If you end up changing the aperture, the focus will definitely change. You will have a much more dramatic effect. So make sure you are setting the aperture right at the beginning. This could also change where the focus is on the mountain. It doesn't right now, but it can do that if this effect is exaggerated. So the movement of the camera as well in the Z dimension will change the focus as well. So what we're going to do right now is change the focus from the mountain to the hill. So we're going to come in here, we're going to turn on our stopwatch on the focus distance, and we're going to move our cursor all the way till 3 seconds. So imagining that the switching focus is taking 3 seconds. And now we're going to find the focus here. So we're going to zoom in here. Again, same technique. We're going to zoom in on the tree as that will give us the sharpest objects. And we are going to turn the depth of field on and off so that we see what we're doing. And now we're going to change the focus distance. I'm going to start by taking it to the left. So grabbing onto these numbers, holding shift and moving them all the way to the left, occasionally letting go. So after a few trials, I got to this number, 7,291, and I don't see any change when I turn the depth of field on and off. So now we're going to fit this. And as you can see down in the timeline, we have switched the focus. We have another keyframe right here. So if we go back and we press on the spacebar to play, it'll obviously take some time to render this out. All right, I think that works out very nicely. What I want to highlight here is that if I were to change with my position, and I'm gonna turn this into two views, so I'm going to select the two views right here. If I were to play around with the position of the camera, so this is the camera, we can see the camera has this angle of view. The angle of view is going to change, and therefore the focal distance is going to change as well. So if I push in the camera, so if I grab in the camera from the points that I have here, so I could go into P position for the camera and move in relation to it, so I could push it in. You'll immediately realize that as I push the camera in, the focal distance has completely shifted. We don't have the same focus on the mountain that we had before. So if you are to animate the camera, you must animate as well the focus distance. And that could be something I could discuss in my next video before we move into adding a light and changing the colors and light settings inside our composition. I hope you guys enjoyed this short video for today. Don't forget to like and comment on the video, as it will help me grow this channel and make more content like this. And as always, I'll see you next time with more tutorials, and thank you for watching.